Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And this time I'll be reviewing of the 1995 film that's actually based on a Stephen King. Probably some people, probably nowadays don't know about it nowadays though. But it did get positive reviews from critics over back then though. But when it comes to Stephen King, we know about more of the horror stuff more than the drama stuff he does. So. But it's a 1990 film called Dolores Claiborne. Now, this is actually starting to piss me off because my previous review of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? That I swore that I had the DVD in my collection, though, right? I checked, I looked, I couldn't find it. Same thing with this. I thought I had Dolores Claiborne on DVD as well. Maybe I'm having a Mandela effect. Thinking I did had it, but it turns out I don't. I was actually starting to get pissed off because I have so much film. I have so many films in my collection. Most times I know that I have though, but when you have like about a thousand films, you probably tend to forget a few though, right? So, but yeah, I'm proud. I was having a Mandela effect probably. I swore I had flown One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and this film. So if I don't have them, I don't have them because I swore I had those. But knock on wood. But anyway, but Dolores Claiborne. It was released in 1995, and like I said before, it's based on a story by Stephen King. And like I said, Stephen when it comes to Stephen King, like I said, dramas with Stephen King, probably people know more about for films of drama with Stephen King. People know more about The Shawshank Redemption or The Green Mile, even Stand by Me, right? But this one, probably a lot of people don't. When it comes to Stephen King, there's probably less people don't know about this film though, or seen it though. But because we know Stephen King is more of is definitely the horror novelist, right? But lately, to me Stephen King lately he's just been mostly full of shit nowadays though. Although to be fair though, I did like the one recent movie that came out, and I did like though. No, not The Running Man. I did not like the remake of The Running Man, which he praises for because if people say it's like more of the book, to me maybe so though, but I just prefer the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man, which at the time Stephen King was under a different name, but I like The Running Man. I think to me that's a classic one as well. It's also a favorite of mine from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Over here, hey, Christmas tree. Where's Buzzsaw? Oh, he had a split. So, but I'm not talking about The Running Man, but um the other recent one, the Long Walk. I actually enjoy that film. So there is probably once in a blue moon a newer adaptation of Stephen King film that I would like, and I liked The Long Walk because I cared about the two leads and the other characters. So, but yeah, and I thought it was well directed by Francis Lawrence, the guy who directed Constantine, I Am Legend, and of course the sequels. Not the first film, but the sequels to the Hunger Games, which I'm not really a fan of though. But I prefer I Am Legend or Constantine. But yeah, I like The Long Walk. But so that has a little bit of drama with it's bits of horror in it though, but it's like mostly like a drama though. But it comes to drama though, because I enjoy the Shawshank Redemption. I like The Green Mile. I like Stand by Me. And of course, the horror stuff that Stephen King has done. Like I said, one of my favorite ones. I love The Shining. I love Cujo, Christine. Carrie, and The Dead Zone, and I love Maximum Overdrive. Which I'm sorry, the Stephen King hates to death though, but I love Maximum. Growing up, I love Maximum Overdrive. Whether the kick-ass score by AC/DC, the Green Goblin Truck, Emilio Estevez. Even have a debut of a young Giancarlo Esposito. It was like holy shit. That's him when he was young. So But yeah, um, but this film, Dolores Claiborne, it did get positive reviews from critics as a solid 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, as a 7.4 on IMDb. So it did on a budget what was like about 15 million, maybe about 46 million. So it wasn't that huge of a hit though, but it did earn us some positive reviews from critics though. And the film is directed by Taylor Hackford, who known for probably where his film got nominated for Oscars for his film Ray. Ray, starring Jamie Foxx playing singer Ray Charles. So he directed that film, which got a lot of praise. Like I said, Oscar nominations, and I think Jamie Foxx won the Oscar for Best Actor, I think. And then Taylor Hackford, he also directed films like Officer and a Gentleman with Richard Gere, and he directed one called White Knights, Against All Odds, um, or another film that I like was The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves, which Al Pacino portrayed the devil. So as for films though, he's well known for directing films like The Devil's Advocate or particularly Ray and Officer and a Gentleman. But I thought he did good with this film as well, and also the music is done by Danny Elfman. So it's always nice, like I said before, it's always nice to hear a score from Danny Elfman when he's not working with Tim Burton. Not that I like a lot of his scores that they did with Tim Burton, like Batman, Sleepy Hollow, and among others, though, right? But it's always nice he's doing a score that when he's not being associated with Tim Burton. And the film stars Kathy Bates, who plays the titular character Dolores Claiborne, who phenomenal actress, and of course also speaking with Stephen King, which playing um oh Annie Wilkes. I almost forgot about her name. Annie Wilkes from Stephen King's Misery, which she won the Oscar for. So this is the second Stephen King film that she did in. And Kathy Bates in this film, I thought she did a phenomenal job as Dolores. And she has that accent. I think it takes place in Maine. So she has like an accent, but I don't think she was too over the top with the accent. I think she had the accent fairly well. I didn't think she was too goofy with the accent, so I think she did a good with the accent. But I think she did a good job regardless because, like I said, Kathy Bates, most of the time she's never hardly ever given a bad performance. She's a great actress, and I think she says this is her favorite role that she's done, which I would see though. But to me, it's always gonna be Annie Wilkes from Misery. She was fantastic being this psychotic, obsessive fan of James Caan's character Paul Sheldon. Just her just breaking his legs. God, I love you. So yeah, my favorite's always gonna be her in Misery though. And she won the Oscar deservedly so. But here she did a good job, and if she says it's her favorite role, I'm not to argue. And then you have Jennifer Jason Leigh, who plays as Dolores' daughter, her estranged daughter. Jennifer Jason Leigh, an actress I remember from starring in the original The Hitcher, Single White Female. Of course, later she would go and star in like films like Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, where Kurt Russell was bringing her in as a prisoner. So, and she's another actress I like as well. And I thought one of the things that made the film work was the chemistry between this mother and daughter, because which will be part of the plot though. But and among other cast members, you have the late Christopher Plummer, rest in peace to him. He plays as this detective who he was investigating a murder case with Kathy Bates and years back, and then when the things happen in the present, he's on her again. So Christopher Plummer, yeah, he plays as this detective. And you have another one played by John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly, which another good actor, which he's worked in comedies with Will Ferrell, like Step Brothers, or among other films, are like Kong Skull Island, The River Wild, or he was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. He's been in many, many movies. John C. Reilly, many films, and he's another good actor too. Other ones, Bob Gunton. Who I speak with Stephen King. He was the evil warden in The Shawshank Redemption. I also, of course, I started in films. I remember him in Broken Arrow. Of course, he was in Dead Silence from director James Wong. Um, Demolition Man. Another he's a supporting actor that I like. I like Bob Gunton. So it's nice to see him. He's a guy who works at the bank, which was a scene where he's at the bank. He works at the bank, and Kathy Bates is yelling at him. Like, "Where's my money?" So it was nice to see Bob Gunton, and you got Eric Bogosian, who he was in the film called Radio Talk. But I remember he plays as the villain Travis Dane from Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, my favorite Steven Seagal film. He played Travis Dane. He's the guy who designed that satellite weapon, wanted to blow up the Pentagon and everything. He's the tech genius. So it's like, oh yeah, it's Eric Bogosian from Under Siege 2, which they came out the same year, 1995. Both these films did. So he did this film and then Under Siege 2 in the same year. I think it's close to the same time though, I think. So, but yeah. Okay, I like Eric Bogosian. He was a fun villain in Under Siege 2. As the two main bad guys with him and Ever McGill. So yeah, overall the cast was overall solid, I would say. So going into the story, okay. In the present, it's 1995, right? In the present, Kathy Bates as the title character, Dolores Claiborne. She's working at this house on the countryside of Maine, caring about this old lady named Vera. And then one thing leads to another. We hear a struggle, and we see that the old lady has fallen down the stairs. And the mailman comes out and sees her, and with Kathy Bates holding a rolling pin and saying that you killed her. So the mailman accuses her that she killed the old lady. And that's where this investigation starts, because Christopher Plummer, as I said before, had a run with her from years back, because Christopher Plummer, he's a guy who really he's so gung ho about wanting to put Dolores behind bars, because there we get flashbacks between when Jennifer Jason Leigh when she was a kid, and Christopher Plummer was investigating the murder case because he is accusing wanting to put convict Kathy Bates because of her of supposedly murdering her husband. So he is so gung ho about nailing her and putting her behind bars for life, because he thinks that she killed her husband, which we get in flashbacks, which she didn't. And so this time when the case is brought up that she's involved again, this time he really wants to put her in prison. So, and the whole thing with Jennifer Jason Leigh's character as Selena, she's been distant from her mom. She's a journalist in New York, and she's been dealing with, she has like repressed memories. Just she's been repressing because of all the horrible things that she locked away in the back of her mind for what happened when she was a kid, and she's been into drug abuse. She's been resentment of her mom for a long time, and her boss is played by Eric Bogosian, which you think they kind of a thing together. I think. I mean, it's nice to see Eric Bogosian, but one of the nitpicks I have with it, the relationship between her and Jennifer Jason Leigh and Eric Bogosian, it almost kind of goes nowhere, because towards the end, maybe because he appears like a couple more times on the phone. He's like, you know what? He's like, I'm done with this. So I don't know if Jennifer Jason Leigh is fired, or that part is kind of a little bit unclear to me though. But it kind of with him with him, it kind of almost goes nowhere with it. You know, as if it's the relationship is like it almost kind of goes nowhere for me. Like I say, he later appears a couple more times on the phone though, so I don't know if she's fired or if she can get her job back. Because by the end she goes back to New York. You know, she kind of reconciles the relationship with her mom and then goes back. You know, so I don't know about that though. And then so she hears about this and she goes over there and we see flashbacks, and I do say the flashbacks. I think they're well shot and well lit. It almost kind of almost like in a bright colorway, and then we see more of the memories that she's been repressing because we found that her dad, Kathy Bates' husband, is a scumbag. She very abusive, and he would hit Kathy Bates right with a rolling pin. You know, hit her a couple times, and the dog was like, "You ever hit me again? That's really the last time you ever do it." And in a way, and also he would have kind of molested Jennifer Jason Leigh. Now, there's not, of course, it's a different kid playing her character, but I'm saying her character kind of sexually abused her, molested her, and it's been so traumatizing. For a long time, she blocked it out of her memory, you know, repressed it, because she didn't want to believe and deny it and stuff like that, right? And so, but when Kathy Bates gave money and her husband stole the money, and because the time that she was caring for the old lady from the beginning, Vera, and develops a bit of a relationship, a friendship with her, and so and she also she kind of almost kind of confesses that you know she the way how she killed her husband, make it seem like he died in a car accident, so she made it look like he died in a car accident. And so, and then in flashback, and then or later on, it turns out that she doesn't want to live no more. You know, I don't want to continue living this life again. So he was kind of like telling Kathy Bates, you know, make her push her down the stairs, make her fall down the stairs, make it seem like she's the one who did it herself, right? And so that's kind of led it to what to happen. That's what led it to what happened, right? Because the way she didn't it turns out she didn't kill her. She wanted to die, so he made her go down the stairs, but that's what she's being accused of. And Christopher Plummer saying that he is so, like I said, he's so gung ho about wanting to nail her ass that um saying that she did it for the money because Vera in her will left her a good pretty much almost like about 30 million in around that. It was like that an insane amount of money to Kathy Bates. So that's the more reason what Christopher Plummer is like. Oh, this is a motive. You did it because you wanted to get the inheritance money. So, and this is the time where Jennifer Jason Leigh is kind of like believing, almost kind of like believing that she would do this because, like I said, the whole thing would happen with her dad, like because now that what the Vera in the flashback tell her how she did it to her husband, and it's like, you know what, like in the one of the tagline of the poster says, you know, an accident can make an unhappy can make can be an accident can make an unhappy person can be an unhappy person's best friend. So knowing that to rage her, since she purposely gets her husband enraged, chases her down further from the house, kind of jumps over, and this is where the husband falls down this well, and she watches him falls down to his death. So, in a way, she didn't do anything. She didn't lay her hands on him or anything. It just made it look like an accident. He just fell down the well by accident. So, but Jennifer Jason Leigh, you know, has been so mad. Has been mad at her. But like I said, she blocked out that memory about with her dad, and just been resentment towards her mom for a long time. And so, and the whole thing where and I think and I'll say the whole thing with Christopher Plummer. One thing another big I have with it, I think the running time of this film. How long was this running time was again? Because if I had the DVD, I would know how long the movie was. Yeah, it's 132 minutes. So it's like two over 2 hours long. I don't think the film did not need to go that long. I don't think so. I don't think this film did not need to be over 2 hours long. I think it could have cut out stuff like okay with the stuff between the mom and daughter is good because the chemistry between these two has been working right, and then it cuts back with Christopher Plummer. I think we don't need the stuff with Christopher Plummer in it though because yeah because he's there because he's the one who's he's not a villain per se though because we need someone to just wants who really wants to put Kathy. He's the guy there who works as a detective who wants to put Kathy Bates behind bars. So he's not a villain per se though. He's just following the motive and the evidence and stuff like that though. But but most times I think it could have cut out a lot of Christopher Plummer stuff out of it though to shorten the running time. That's just me though. But and like I said, the flashbacks I thought they were well shot, like especially well lit. And there was this like where the solar eclipse was like going and it overshines around the time when the husband fell down the well. I thought that was a well lit shot as well. So the film does have some good looking shots, especially in the flashbacks. And I think Kathy Bates, I thought she was doing a good job. Like I said, she wasn't too over the top with the accent. Like I said, say either with Jennifer Jason Leigh. I thought both of them did pretty good, did solid jobs. Nice. It was nice seeing that John C. Reilly in there and Eric Bogosian. Like I said, he pops up one or two times afterwards. But like I said, with him, it kind of goes nowhere with it. But the main focus is between this or the relationship between this mother and daughter, and so and then like I said, there was a point where Kathy Bates goes to the bank and talks about where's my money, and then Bob Gunton is there at the work at the bank, and she's yelling at him. It just kind of like reminds me, um, well, it's not, well, because speak with Bob Gunton, she mentions Stephen King, Kathy Bates mentions Shawshank, the Shawshank, the prison, the Shawshank Redemption. So it's kind of funny, because yeah, Bob Gunton, he was the warden in the Shawshank Redemption, and so I was like, I'm gonna send you to Shawshank. So I thought that was a nice reference as well. And but I was speaking of Bob Gunton, I was just like, maybe it's a different movie though, but it just made me think like how his dialogue, he just made me think of John Travolta when he's talking to John Travolta in Broken Arrow. He's like, now you listen, I've spent a lot of money underwriting this, and frankly, you're beginning to shake my confidence. And just like he just keeps it, like, and when they chase with a helicopter, he just won't shut up. Then John Travolta just goes and crushes his windpipe with a flashlight, and John Travolta's like, hush, hush. It just makes me laugh, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, because yeah, Bob Gunton, you just wouldn't shut up. So yeah, I'm gonna blame, that just John Travolta just goes like, and he's like, Mr. Bridget, you mind stepping outside? Pushes his body out of the car. Yeah, I love Broken Arrow, so that's one of my favorite action movies. But I was say that's why because it was nice seeing Bob Gunton because they read the reference of Shawshank because he was in as the warden. So, and then one thing leads to another. Like now, Jennifer Jason Leigh, she slowly starts remembering her past, right? All the horrible things that her dad did, and so just when Kathy Bates was about to be, before the grand jury, Jennifer Jason runs in, comes to her rescue, to her mom's rescue. Say that you have no evidence that she didn't do anything, no one saw anything, and so there's no admissible evidence for you to convict her. And then just like guess like that, just like Christopher Plummer, he just drops the charges now. Now do I really buy Christopher Plummer dropping charges just like that? I mean, this guy, he was so gung ho about wanting to really want to get Kathy Bates so badly and put her behind bars, especially with the first incident with her husband, And with this, he was so gung ho about it in the first case, and this now leading up to this, and also I just don't really buy him just dropping just dropping the charges just like that, after he was so gung ho about just wanting to get her. But until and after that, that's when, like I said, Jennifer Jason Leigh, she, like I said, she reconciles the relationship with her mom, and then she goes and heads back. But like I said, does she still have her job when she goes back? With seeing Eric Bogosian, but overall though, like I said, I maybe it's a Mandela effect. I swore that I had One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I thought I had this DVD as well, this film as well though. But hey, I think it's a Mandela effect saying that I thought I had them, but I don't. And like I said, just like when you have like 1,000 DVDs, so much you have, you probably, I know what I have, most of the films I have, but I guess there's a few in the rough that I thought I had, but I didn't. Turns out I don't. So otherwise, I would have the DVD with me. But overall, I do like the film. Now, I still think by comparison, I think Kathy Bates' performance in Misery was much better though. But here, I think Kathy Bates was still very solid in this film. Definitely. Like I said, she hardly ever gets a bad performance, right? I think she did a really good job in this film. Like I said, she wasn't too over the top with the accent. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh, I think she did a good job as well. I feel the chemistry between the mother and daughter, like the distance between them, until the end. And so I think both of them did a pretty good job. Nice to see John C. Reilly, Christopher Plummer, may he rest in peace. Just Christopher Plummer, just being General Chang from Star Trek Six: The Undiscovered Country. I have him shouting William Shakespeare, right? I have so wanted to meet you, Captain. One warrior to another, or cry havoc and let's let the dogs of war to be or not to be. Yeah, yeah. Christopher Plummer was a good actor. So rest in peace to him. But it was nice to see him there. But I think they could have cut some of most of the stuff out though to shorten the time though. And also Eric Bogosian, I think. So between him and Jeffrey Jason, I think it kind of goes nowhere. But other positives, I think like when it comes to flashbacks, that was well lit, well shot. Like when it came to like the solar eclipse, and so um overall, I thought it was pretty solid movie. Not what I want to watch all the time though, but I'll watch it again like in once in a while, And especially this is from Stephen King, just of course, like I said, he's the one who praises the remake of The Running Man, or he praises other films. There was other films that he praises that compared to the films that he dislikes. Like I said, I know he hates The Shining. He hates his own film of Maximum Overdrive. You know, but there's other films that I enjoy that are also from Stephen King as well. I like The Mist, especially with that ambiguous ending. Thing, yeah, and for 1408 with the John Cusack and Samuel Jackson. Another good Stephen King film. Trying to think. As for the miniseries, like I like from the miniseries of Stephen King's The Stand with Gary Sinise. I like that miniseries, or Stephen King's It with Tim Curry, and with Richard Thomas and John Ritter. Um, Tim Curry just having a ball playing Pennywise the clown. And of course, speaking of Stephen King, how he praises the Running Man remake, and how he praises the new It movies. You know, and I did see the first. Speaking of It, I did see the first episode of the series of It. Welcome to Derry. Did not like it as I expected for myself. Of course. I'll stick with the 90s miniseries. So So, but also I think Stephen King himself, he's just full of crap, you know. And just I don't know why I keep on doing this because I'm wearing a hat. I don't know. I don't know why I keep on doing that though. But I like the running. I like the Running Man. The first Children of the Corn was tolerable. This do we need them? Do we not need that many sequels? No. But I also like the Dead Zone with Christopher Walken as well. So, but there's other stuff I like from like I said, Carrie, I love Christine. So other Stephen King's films probably I didn't mention though, but good portion of it. But I love Cujo. That was a great one. But oh, Cat's Eye. That's another one. Cat's Eye. Firestarter was all right. You know, other ones I'm not really a fan of, like Stephen King's Thinner or The Dark Half. The Mangler I like with Robert Englund. I like The Mangler. I think it's another underrated one. Same with Stephen King's Graveyard Shift. I love Graveyard Shift. The Graveyard Shift. I love The Graveyard Shift. That's another underrated one from Stephen King as well. You know. I like Creepshow 1 and 2. But I know I can't name them all though, but yeah, but sometimes I just think Stephen King. I know in real life he's an idiot. You know, he's just full of himself. You know, but it doesn't excuse though. He's made some pretty good work though. Film wise, yes. I haven't read too much on the books though, because I just prefer watching movies myself. You know, just to be entertained more than just reading the books. So, but I do read books though. Like I said, I love Goosebumps. I've read all the original Goosebumps books. That's what got me into reading in the first place. You know. So overall, though, but going back to this Dolores Claiborne, I thought it was a solid film with good performance, especially by Kathy Bates. But do I still prefer Misery of her performance? Yes. But her performance in this was overall pretty thumbs up worthy. But anyway, that's Dolores Claiborne. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. We'll see it on the next movie review. Later.